Hi everyone, welcome back to my channel. Today we're going to be talking about fake meats, especially how healthy are these products and what is actually the environmental impact of these products. So let's get started. Being it because of health, environmental or animal rights concerns, the vegan meat market has skyrocketed. The Global Food Institute registered in 2022 the global retail sales of plant-based meat were $6.1 billion and 8% increase when comparing to 2021. And there was a notable growth in both Latin America and Europe. Vegan fake meats are now readily available in most grocery stores, catering to the constant and increasing demand for this product, and therefore makes the vegan style much more accessible. But is it actually healthy to consume these products on a daily basis? And when comparing to meat, what is the environmental impact of making this new products? In this video, we're going to dive into both of these points, which seems to be the biggest concerns that I have faced when I talk about fake meats. We have heard that a plant-based diet is actually healthier, or at least a reduction of animal products, especially when it comes to cardiovascular diseases. According to a study published in the Journal of the American Heart Association, which followed around 12,000 people from 1987 to 2016, showed that the adherence to an overall plant-based diet had a 16% lower risk of cardiovascular disease, 31 to 32% lower risk of cardiovascular disease mortality, and 18 to 25% lower risk of all-cause mortality. But meat substitutes are something else, right? They are these highly processed foods that we're now incorporating into our diets. So how different are they? Well, here the science becomes a bit tricky because plant-based meats have not been around for that long, and the ones that have, it was not really interesting for researchers to investigate. So when it comes to how healthy these products are, the answer is actually not very clear-cut. One study performed in 2019 looked into the nutritional composition of modern meat analog products. They looked into what type of protein they're actually containing, so either if it comes from legumes, soy, cereal, mycoprotein, and the advantages and disadvantages of using each of these proteins. They looked into the lipid content and how different the lipid structure is in plant-based products and meat products, and how there is no conclusive evidence on which one is healthier. They've looked into the carb content, the color types that they use, the color pigmentation, and what types of processing do these meat analogs go through. They brush a bit over this part because the main point of the study was to understand if the macronutrient profile of meat analogs was or wasn't similar to the meat counterparts. The conclusion was that they actually simulate well the macronutrient profile of their animal-based counterparts. They do not speculate about the health aspect of it because, again, this wasn't the point of the study. They do make a note, though, to explain that at least the meat analogs that they evaluated are highly processed, so like Beyond Meat or Impossible Burgers. I do have to say that I find it a bit biased, this conclusion, because they only evaluated products that are already processed. So a hamburger and nuggets are processed in themselves, so their plant-based counterparts are also quite processed. But again, that's beyond the point. That is a slight tangent, and we can look into it in a different video. But again, let's assume that they're highly processed. And the World Health Organization actually also classifies most plant-based alternatives as highly processed foods. How damaging to our health are actually these products then? Well, again, complicated. As I said in the beginning, there is no real study that evaluates fake meats, or at least no study that I have found that evaluates fake meats and compares them to the meat counterparts. There was, however, a meta-analysis performed in 2017 that found a correlation between highly processed foods and obesity, which we already know is linked to all-cause mortality. But again, this is all types of processed foods and not specifically meat alternatives. I spent several hours digging into many studies and reading through a lot of articles, and unfortunately there's no clear-cut solution. The World Health Organization actually has a pretty cool report on the plant-based diet, and they do have a section about meat analogs. What they say is that there is no conclusive evidence on how healthy they are, but they do acknowledge that there are different types of processing, and some meat analogs are healthier than others, and that there should be categories to distinguish highly processed food from less processed foods. Having that into account, the guidelines currently is just avoiding them in general. So having them once in a while is fine, but it shouldn't be the main product of your diet. So in my eyes, see it like ice cream. It is great, tastes amazing, it's great to have, but you know it's not good for you. You might have it once in a while, but you shouldn't make it into a habit to consume it every day. Just for the sake of our curiosity, and I mean ours because I don't write the scripts alone, we looked into the most common meat alternatives in Europe and their macronutrient profile for both beef and sausage. So when it comes to beef, they do seem to have kind of the same amount of calories, if not lower amounts of fat, higher amounts of fiber, but also higher amounts of salt. When it comes to sausage, we also have higher amounts of fiber, higher amounts of carbohydrates, and lower amounts of calories. But as I said, this does not mean anything about the healthiness of a product. It's just an indicator of what it might be. When it comes to the environmental impact, it's actually much more clear-cut. You probably have heard time and time again how damaging the meat industry is to our planet. The production of meat products is a leading contributor to deforestation, greenhouse gas emissions, and water pollution. Livestock farming requires vast amount of land, water, and feed, leading to habitat destruction and loss of biodiversity. But how do vegan fake meats compare to that? As I said previously, the main ingredients of fake meats are normally cereal or soy or legumes, so that's what we're going to compare with meat. To make this very clear, plant-based diets are objectively better for the environment. There's actually an article published in Our World in Data stating that if all the global population turned vegan or had a plant-based diet, we would reduce the land we need for agriculture by 75%. They also go into how energy efficient it is to produce meat and some other things that you can read through the article. Do not think that this is actually a vegan bias article. They actually state that just reducing the consumption of red meat would already be a big part of the way, because both chicken, eggs, and fish tend to have a lower environmental impact. Well, but you might say, well, but it depends on the farming practices, no? And you would be right. Yes, it does. For both vegetables and meat, there's actually a spectrum on what the impact of a certain product is. According to a meta-analysis published in the journal Science that evaluated the environmental impact of around 38,000 farms producing 40 different types of agricultural products, it concluded that the lowest impact animal products typically exceed those of vegetable substitutes. So no matter how you spin this, vegetables are and do have a lower impact than meat. So if you're concerned about the environment, I guess try focus on your diet instead of how your products are actually packaged. And if this sounds too passive-aggressive, it is because I've been watching Git Marie way too much. I should also link her channel, even though this is not about veganism. Anyways. Conclusion. There is just not enough data to say how healthy plant-based alternatives are, at least at this point in time. And when it comes to the environment, a plant-based diet is objectively better. So just, as I said before, take it with a grain of salt, everything you see. And if you're really craving a burger or meatballs, you can always do it by yourself. Like just smash some legumes and make it into a patty or a meatball or whatever. So just have into consideration, these are products that maybe you should avoid and shouldn't be the cornerstone of your diet. So yeah, thanks. Like, subscribe, thanks, YouTube engagement stuff. Yeah. And I'll see you next time. Ciao.